Hey, what's going on, internet? In this video, we're going to talk about creating icon animation the correct way by using Adobe Illustrator and After Effects. Alright, how's everyone doing today? My name is Josh Noel and I'm from SonduckFilm. We've done a handful of tutorials on the Illustrator to After Effects workflow, but we've never really gone in depth into the shape layer animation of doing icon animation the correct way with Adobe Illustrator. And by using Adobe Illustrator, we can do amazing animation for logos and get very specific with designing our icons. So in this video, we're going to talk about the design portion of Adobe Illustrator, and then we're going to bring it over to After Effects and talk about the limitless capabilities of creating shape layer animation. So if you want to be able to create animated icons and logos with unlimited control, we'll go ahead and jump into the video. But before we do, I gotta say thank you to Premium Beat for sponsoring this video. Premium Beat is a royalty-free music provider for your creative video and motion graphic projects. They have an extremely popular library with thousands of songs to choose from, and they have a very easy in-depth search and menu filter system so you can quickly find the best songs for your video. So when you're editing your next project, be sure to check out premiumbeat.com for your royalty-free music. So here we are inside of Adobe Illustrator where we'll be designing our icons, also known as vectors or your logo. Now, I downloaded this from a website called freepik.com where you can download free vector objects and use it in your project. However, in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how we can learn how to create almost any icon without a tutorial. So this tutorial will show you how to create most icons in the way that I learned how to use Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to create an icon from scratch, but what I suggest doing when you're first starting off learning this stuff, find some icons that you like. So for example, right here, I want to show you about what goes into, say, this icon right here, which is a building. And if we want to select one of these icons, what we can do is just select one of these icons here, copy it, go up to File, New, and we'll create a new artboard. You can use 1920 by 1080 because we are doing, video, so it's good to have that aspect ratio, and click create. And then we just simply paste this icon in here. So we have our empty artboard, and we can make it a little bit bigger by dragging out the edges, and we'll just move this over. Okay, so this is how we can start off. So essentially what we want to do is copy the elements in here so we can learn how to do icon design. And you can do this with any icon because simply it's all about breaking down specific elements. So a big part of building icons is understanding shapes. So there's a shape tool right over here called the rectangle tool, and you gotta, if you click and hold it down, there's a whole bunch of other tools in here like the polygon tool, ellipse tool, round rectangle. What we're gonna do is grab the rectangle tool because we can see that this design is obviously a rectangle. So simply all we'll do is come here, click, and we'll draw out a rectangle like this. It's very easy to do. Then what we can do is do another one, make it a little bit smaller, and now we have, the bottom of the building here. And what we can do is click, drag, select both of these rectangles here. And at the top, if you have the selection tool selected right here in the left corner, we can come here to the top and we can horizontally align these to make sure that these are lined up in the center. So we have three other rectangles in here, and obviously this is easy to do. So what we'll do is just draw out three bigger rectangles, thicker ones. And then instead of recreating it, what we'll do is hold down Alt on our keyboard, and we'll click and drag the rectangle we just made, and this will automatically duplicate it. If you hold down Shift, it'll stay in the same alignment. So what you do is Alt click the shape, hold down Shift, and drag it over. And boom, now we have three shapes like so. And then we have the top part here, we'll Alt click this, hold down Shift, and we'll bring over the top roof. And now it gets a little bit more complicated. So now we have a triangle and we have a roof. Let's do the triangle first. So this is part of the roof. And from here, what we want to do is click and grab the polygon tool. So anytime you're working with a fixed number of sides, you want the polygon tool. So you select the polygon tool, and then you just left click, and then it'll prompt, and this box pops up. How many sides do you want to have? Well, we want to have 3 sides. And now we have a rectangle, and simply we grab the selection tool at the top, just like in After Effects, and we can just stretch this out and put this on top of our roof, and you see everything, aligns very easily. So pretty easy to do this. And now we just have the roof, and once again, it's just 2 rectangles. So this is very easy to do. So we'll grab the rectangle, and we'll just draw out a thin rectangle, like this. And then we'll go grab the selection tool at the top, and we'll come here, and we'll want to hover over the corners, and this rotate icon comes up, and we'll just want to rotate this until we kind of get those, alignment indicators, that we're in the right path. And then simply we'll just hover this over the top, and we can stretch it out and resize this as we see fit. Then we can just Alt click this, and we have a duplicate. And then for us to just flip this other side, we'll go to Object, Transform, and we'll click on Reflect. And we'll want to reflect this horizontally. Sometimes you're going to want to do it vertically depending on what you're doing. So we'll do horizontal reflect, click OK. Then we just match this up to where we have it, and it might not connect. So that's where the points intersect. So things are aligned perfectly here. However, we have this part right here. So what we can do is just drag out one of the rectangles further, beyond our actual, roof, and do that. And then we'll drag out the other one past, the rectangle as well. And then we'll click and drag, select both of the roofs here, or both of the rectangles. And there's a shape builder tool right here, which you want to go ahead and select that. And you can hold down Alt on your keyboard, and you can hover over the extended parts, and you can just click, and it will just delete it by holding down Alt on your keyboard. Now, this is looking good. So essentially now these are still two shapes, and if we want to combine these two shapes to be just one shape, just select them both by holding down Shift on your keyboard, and you go to Window and go to Path Finder, which is right here. And there's going to be several shape modes in here. You can click on Unite. So now this entire shape is one shape together. And sometimes you can subtract shapes as well, but we'll talk about that maybe in another tutorial if you're interested. So this was just some of the basics of Adobe Illustrator, and you should be able to, create some of the basic shapes using the methods we just did by looking at the shapes and recreating it here in Adobe Illustrator. But perhaps you want to animate an object, and it doesn't matter what it is. So whether you're going to use your own handmade icons, or you're going to use a template, or you're going to work with a graphic designer who's going to design these icons, you need another workflow to move it over to After Effects if you want to animate it and it comes through Adobe Illustrator. So what we'll do here is we'll select our nice house here. When it's all designed, whatever you have, whether it's a logo or an icon, if you want to animate this and have full control over it in After Effects, all you need to do once it's all designed, just go to File, Save, right, and save it as whatever you want to call it. I'll just name it Building. I already have that saved, and click Save. So when you're done, we can move over to After Effects. Alright, so here we are inside of After Effects, and I've already imported my Adobe Illustrator file right here, just the one that we designed in Illustrator, and I brought it into my timeline at the top. So if you look at this, we don't really have any control to animate any of the shapes individually. It's just one layer inside of After Effects. But we want to have control, right? And this is very easy to do. So what we can do is right-click the Illustrator file, go to Create, and click on Create Shapes from Vector Layer. Now it'll automatically hide the vector layer inside of After Effects, and it'll create a shape layer. So now we have our building in here inside of a shape layer, and we open up the shape layer, go into the contents, we see all these groups in here, and I can hide these individually. So as you can see, we can now take full control over this vector layer inside of After Effects, and we could have designed this in After Effects. However, it would have been a lot more tedious, and it takes a lot more time to design these sort of things in After Effects, whereas in Illustrator, you have all the tools you need to design any shape that you want, and when you understand the software, you're going to fly through designing icons compared to doing it inside of After Effects. So this is a phenomenal workflow. So if we want to animate these, let's go ahead and do that, right? So we designed this icon that has multiple, layers to it, so we might as well animate it individually so we look like we did some awesome work. So we can go into each group individually and see what we can do. Perhaps we'll go for the bottom, we'll work its way up. Let's build this animation up. So what we'll do is go open up group 8, then we'll go into transform group 8, and anchor points in the center. That's phenomenal. So perhaps what we'll do is break the chain for scale and add a keyframe for it. Move the keyframe forward in time just by a little bit. Set the X scale down to 0%. Now it'll open up just like that. Wow. And then perhaps we'll want to hit F9 on our keyboard to make these easy keyframes by selecting them. And perhaps for the next rectangle, we'll do the same thing, break that chain, add a keyframe for scale, move it over, and set the X scale to 0%. Now we have 2 there. Of course, make them easy keyframes. And for group 6, we have our columns, and perhaps we'll do the same sort of thing with the scale, but also we'll do something with, say, position. And we'll break the chain for scale and move both of these keyframes forward in time. And then we'll want to set the Y scale down to 0%. And then we'll want to bring down the Y position down to the bottom here, so it'll look like it'll grow up like that. And then instead of being repetitive with this animation, because I want to do this to the other 2 columns as well, we can just copy our keyframe. So just select the position and scale here, and we'll want to paste it to group 5. So maybe right here we'll paste that in there. Now, as we go in here, you can see that it's going to be moved over a little bit. So just to make things easy, select both the position keyframes and go to the last keyframe, and we'll move this back to where it was in the center. Comes on just like that. And then once again, we'll go to group 4, go to transform group 4, and we'll want to paste those in there. And we'll want to reposition that back over to where it was. And that looks good. Alright, and here's our animation currently, and I went ahead and animated the top part just because it was going to be repetitive. And now we'll do the roofs here. So perhaps we could do something a little bit more creative here. So we'll go to group 2, and this is the triangle part. Maybe we'll go to add, and we can add something called trim paths. I use this a lot. What I like about this is we can do something, a little bit unique. Perhaps we'll bring down the end to 0%, and we'll add a keyframe for it. And we'll move forward in time, and we'll set up the end to 100%, and they'll just move on like that. Make them easy keyframes and reposition them as you need to. And then we'll take maybe group 1, and this is the top roof part, and I think it makes most sense for the top part of the roof at least to jump down. So we'll just add a keyframe for position, move that forward in time, and then we can just have it drop down from the top of our composition if we want. And then maybe we'll just drop this in from the top of our composition. And we'll reorganize our keyframes. And if, before we animate this, go ahead and turn on motion blur for our shape layer and turn it on at the top. And now the icon that we designed in Adobe Illustrator and animated in After Effects, here is the entire animation that we were able to have full control over with shape layers inside of After Effects. So if you're really interested in learning how to do this workflow and design icons, vector icons, go ahead and break down other assets that are out there and learn how to do this, because there's so many different assets that you can create. And once you know how to design a few of them, you really got a great understanding how to do this stuff, and you'll be kind of almost unstoppable when it comes to motion graphics. So typically when it comes to longer form projects that require a lot of animation, this obviously can take a lot of time. So to help me save a lot of time, I use one of my favorite plugins for After Effects called Animation Composer. And simply, Animation Composer is a preset animation pack for After Effects that is a very nicely designed library where you can preview your animations and apply these layer transitions to all your layers inside of After Effects. So you can take hours worth of animation and condense it down to just minutes by using this preset pack called Animation Composer. So if you're ever working on a big project that requires a ton of animation, I highly suggest checking out Animation Composer. The link's in the video description if you want to learn more about it now, or if you're looking to take your animations to the next level with very little time effort. So there is our awesome Illustrator to After Effects icon/logo animation tutorial. If you want to learn more about this workflow, we have a handful of other tutorials that go from Illustrator to After Effects for cartoons and vector animation. So if you want to learn more about this, go ahead and check our links in the video description and you can watch those tutorials. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you're new to our channel, be sure to subscribe to our channel, SonduckFilm. We post 2 post-production tutorials every single week right here. You can also hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the video description, and always be creating.